What is the victory of a cat on a hot tin roof? Now, I've seen this movie quite a few times. Made in 1958, directed by Richard Brooks, starring Elizabeth Taylor, Paul Newman, and Burl Ives. I've seen it a handful of times before, but it never truly registered with me. It never truly moved me or grabbed me until right now, standing before you at 29 years old, about to hit 30. And it's my new favorite thing. It really spoke to me this time. I think first and foremost, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is an expertly acted film. And I think that Paul Newman, in particular, is radically impressive in this role. And Elizabeth Taylor, this is one of her finest performances as well. I love the two of them. I love their dynamic. And I wish I did not relate to the awfulness that was at the core of their relationship, that fighting, right? Paul Newman being anchorless, relying on so many crutches, literally a crutch as well, and make several appearances in this film. I wish it did not relate to Brick, Paul Newman's characters, as heavily as I did, but I'm being honest with you guys, and I definitely did. And I think that this film is an incredibly important queer film as well. I think that this is an astonishingly important queer film, and a great reminder of what the Hays Code was like. You see, this was based on a play by Tennessee Williams, and both Tennessee Williams and Paul Newman criticized the film's erasure of the homosexual elements from the play. Now, it didn't completely erase them. Richard Brooks still included several things. I mean, the reason that Paul Newman is drinking is essentially because his lover, Skipper, killed himself. And even if that's not completely and bluntly said and stated in the film, if you have any notion of subtext, you are able to pick it up effortlessly. And what I like about that as well is that Paul Newman consistently, over and over again, this is a reoccurring motif. He talks about mendacity. Mendacity is the system we live in, and mendacity is the reason that I drink. He's a sufferable alcoholic. Mendacity, untruthfulness, lies and liars. And the film itself is telling an untruth, and the audience is complicit. So, by not completely overtly stating that there are homosexual elements in Skipper and Brick's relationship, yet giving you more than enough subtext, more than enough through nuance, through subtlety, through undertones, for you to pick up that there certainly were homosexual elements and qualities and dynamics in that relationship, then the audience is complicit in wiping the homosexual nature of the film under the rug. And I think that's a brilliant way of exposing the Hays Code, exposing censorship, and while at the same time championing LGBT stories in its own way. I think Richard Brooks really demonstrated his genius in a rather confined and limited space. You know, as Brick and Maggie say to each other, we're not lovers, we're just two cats in the same cage, you know? We occupy the same cage. And the Hays Code was a cage when it came to expressing sexuality. But I believe that the metaphor is there, and I, in my own way, I believe that it is overt. It's inescapable. You can't walk away from it without really picking up on that. And what is the victory of a cat on a hot tin roof? That is the question I keep going back to. Because Maggie, Elizabeth Taylor, was a fascinating character. An incredibly fascinating character, and a wonderful performance from Elizabeth Taylor. I keep going back. She was wonderful in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf as well, but A Place in the Sun and A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with being her best moment. Her best moment in film, her best cinematic moments combined. But Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is incredible. Paul Newman really astonished me. Paul Newman was really something else in this movie. And like I said, I identified so heavily with Paul Newman. But with that, good gosh, with that detached, with that removed, with that, like I said, anchorless. And anchorless in every kind of way. Anchorless emotionally, anchorless physically, completely far away, yet his emotionality, his pathos is so palpable, and it's so intense, and it's very easy to set it off. Just as easy as it is to get little to no reaction whatsoever. It's such a wonderful performance, and I do believe it's Paul Newman's best performance. This is a performance of class, of complexity, of sophistication. It's a haunted performance, and a very haunted film that has a lot to say about masculinity. And I'm very interested in portrayals of masculinity, but especially in the 50s, in a time where there were dominant masculine archetypes that were widely agreed upon, and Burl Ives playing Big Daddy. Tennessee Williams is very good at exposing the artifice of masculinity, and this is a film about delusions and about artifice. So many characters are deluding themselves. In fact, the film itself is delusional, and the audience is deluding themselves as well if they choose not to believe in the homosexual elements and components of the movie. It's incredibly meta, it's incredibly powerful, it's physical poetry, truly. And I'm always astonished by several parts of it, but on this most recent rewatch, which is really just a spontaneous revisiting of the film, I completely fell in love with just about everything about it. I think it's remarkably brilliant. I think it's an astonishing film, and I think it's a masterful film as well. But artifice and delusion, in a way that Jean Renoir, director of Rules of the Game, would have been, I think, spellbound by, of course. Everyone is deluding themselves into the roles that they are occupying, because no one is occupying a role that is truly becoming of them. They are all occupying the same space, the same cage. And that archetype, even if it is the head patriarch, is still a cage. And it's artificial. It's incredibly artificial. There are scenes in this film that could just be between two characters, or just one character looking over a balcony, that has layers upon layers of delusions and artifice, delusions and artifice, delusions and artifice. It is incredible. It would take me hours just to go scene by scene, or give you a rundown of every delusional motif in the film, of every artificial aspect to the drama. It would take me forever, because every scene is so full of them. Because these are characters looking for the truth. At least Brick and Maggie are. They are searching for what they consider truthfulness, and in the end, they decide to make the truth out of a lie, to turn the lie into a truth, because they have that kind of existentialist power to do so, to do just that. And that is a remarkable lesson to tell, that yes, mendacity is the system that we live in, but not disenchantment. We can turn back this sinking ship. We can turn it around. We can take a lie, which is what we are born into. We are born into a system of mendacity, of untruthfulness. But we can turn that into the truth, into sincerity, into honesty. We have that existentialist power. The nausea of mere being, the antidote to that is to make those lies a reality. And that's very interesting. That's actually fascinating. That's a fascinating philosophical statement for a film like this to make. And yes, Paul Newman is drinking himself to death because his lover, Skipper, he killed himself, and Paul Newman blames himself, also blames his wife for this dramatic emotional turn in his lover's behavior. But it's a truly bisexual element, because he does love and appreciate his wife in this film. He just needs to know that he's not to blame, That you can turn the truth every which way. You can find the truth. Turn the lie into a truth. And Just remarkable performances all around. Incredibly good at establishing such a palpable humanity, really, to the entire piece, to the entire film. Every scene is dripping with this tactile emotionality that you can reach out and you can touch. It's visceral, really. That's truly the word. It is incredibly visceral. And Burl Ives also astonished me. This was a wonderful performance as the patriarch who is destroyed. And destroyed by not only his own hubris, by his own delusions, being allowed to believe that he will live forever only to be told by his hobbling, wounded, gay son that no, you have an expiration date and it's coming up fast. I hurt him, Maggie. I hurt him real bad. And from that point on, he realizes that it's love that transcends masculinity, that transcends what is considered normalcy. That's what you bequeath people with. That's what they continue to live on with. That is truth. That is the opposite of mendacity. The opposite of mendacity is truth. It is creation. It is living. It is continuing. And that's what Maggie, that's what Big Daddy chooses to do. The film succeeds in every single thing it tries to do. I mean, by 30 minutes into the movie, I was like Elizabeth Taylor myself. I was like Liz. I wanted to smother those children, those incredibly annoying, yapping, loud, and abrasive children. I wanted to smother them just like she did. Also, the motherless motif is incredible. The fact that she couldn't bear children, or the fact that she didn't bear children yet, not that she couldn't, but that her husband was clinically disinterested in her, making her feel like less of a woman, due to his homosexual hang-ups that he had to get over, that he had to explore and accept, and also accept Maggie's own innocence in the process. She had nothing to do with the homosexual elements that had been at war with Brick, with himself, driving him to drink. This is coffee, by the way. It's a prop, I guess. But I'm just completely astonished by this film. But every little thing about it. I would like to do a long-form analysis on this film, and I will when I get the chance to do just that. It's a remarkable movie. I think it's one of the best films of the 50s, if not the very best American one, because of the limited space that it had to express such large and human and complicated and sophisticated ideas of sexuality, of masculinity, of femininity, of family, of dynasty, of politics, of money, of avarice, of delusions and artifice, of mendacity, the system we live in. What is the victory of a cat on a hot tin roof? I don't know, just stay on as long as you can. This is a mind-blowing movie. It's mind-blowing. This is a movie that really speaks to me right now at my age. I don't believe I'm deluding myself. I believe the rest of the world is delusional and the rest of the world is mostly artificial. And that I believe that, mendacity is the system that we live in. And I feel like I'm taking it out on my significant other. I don't necessarily have repressed emotions or repressed sexual elements that could be associated with my behavior. But I am incredibly disenfranchised and alienated, I feel, from the world around me, and from my lover as well. And I'm trying to make peace with that. And maybe what I can do is I could turn a lie into the truth. I could take untruthfulness and make something sincere out of it, because that's the only way you can do it. The world isn't going to magically change overnight, and that mendacity isn't going to magically evaporate in an instant. That, yes, mendacity is the system we live in, and that is not going to change. But you are the master of the cage that you occupy within that space of mendacity. And sincerity can exist within a lie. Because what Maggie did at the end, that was a good lie, not necessarily a noble lie. but it was a lie that Brick intended to turn into the truth, that Brick intended to adapt into this space that he intended to occupy to make sense of the world. I just wish I didn't feel so alienated from everything and everyone. I wish the world wasn't the way that it was, and that I didn't feel as anchorless as I do. But what I have to do is kind of an existentialist turn. I have to make an existentialist decision to turn this world, this lie, into something truthful. Because the world is a hot tin roof, and what can my victory be? To stay on as long as I possibly can, and to pretend, to make believe, to turn, alter, and morph the truth into something real, into something that doesn't just serve delusions or artifice. Take lies, make them truths, then take that truth and let it breathe. Give it life. Thank you so much for watching this video. Cat in a Hot Tin Roof thoroughly blew my mind.